Let's take a look. Oh shit, sorry. Let's take a look
So
at
Young
what
Thug
Young
had a
Thug's
problem.
doing
While he
here.
was in jail awaiting his RICO charge, he made a couple phone calls. Now, these phone calls have been leaked. That's his problem. Because in these phone calls,
Yeah,
he's talking to a lot of people.
Right, he still has to do his. Right, he pled or he settled. So what that means is they gave him a fixed amount of time that he has to work on. And he hasn't been doing that time yet, I don't think.
About a lot of things.
They've been working on the...
He believes that they're private phone calls, so he's
on the
sharing his
paperwork on
private conversations. And think about yourself. Think about private conversations you've had in the past when you're talking to somebody really, really close to you. Some of that audio you don't want leaked out. Well, in Young Thug's case, he's talking about some very sensitive information, like he got no care in the world. Now, to go a little deeper, there's actually two aspects to Young Thug's problem. Listen to this next part closely. There are the jail leaks that we just talked about, and there's another leak. Now, why I call this two...
Sorry, let's continue.
Because they happen at separate times, okay? All the jail calls that were leaked happened when he was facing his RICO charge, okay? The other leak where he's talking to police happened way before he was arrested for a RICO charge. That's important. Mm-hmm. Now, during the jail calls, he just a little gossipy. Remember, he talking to his friends, his homies. He really think, you know, hey, this ain't gonna get out. So he basically saying stuff like, Gucci Mane, maybe he's soft. He's saying, now, keep in mind, a lot of this stuff is clipped. And why I say that is because specifically for the Gucci Mane example, I'm telling you, the clip going around is Young Thug calls Gucci Mane soft. But honestly, there's a little more to it than that. Young Thug is more or less saying Gucci Mane was mad at somebody. Gucci Mane went to jail. Gucci Mane got out of jail and he stopped being mad at that person. Gucci Mane is soft for not being mad at that person anymore. Maybe he went to jail and turned soft. Yeah. Now, I bring that up not to defend Young Thug because he called him soft still, but I want you to understand that there's still more context to this stuff. It's not, he's just not straight up just coming out talking smack about people. You know what I'm saying? All that to say, most of Young Thug's jail calls are surrounding that. It's just, you know, he's been a little messy, nothing too crazy. Now, there's one call in particular that gives a little...
This is an example as to you should always be careful because you're still in, right? He's still in the court system, right? He still has, you should watch his fucking mouth, literally. Oh shit. Here we
insight into Atlanta as a whole. Young Thug is speaking to his close friend 21 Savage. Young Thug is speaking about what Gunna did during the RICO trial. If you don't know what a RICO trial is, it's basically they gather up members of a group and they
criminal
categorize
organization
the whole group as a criminal organization. Okay, so they pull in Gunna, they pull in Young Thug, they pull in a bunch of people. They want to label them as a criminal organization. To label them as a criminal organization, you have to have people in that organization say this is a criminal organization. Now, usually in RICO trial, police and the feds, they're just going for the person at the top. This was created for the mafia, so they can go for the mafia boss instead of like the lower level folks. In this case, it was Young Thug. So they gathered up Gunna and a bunch of people from YSL and said, look, all you need to tell us is YSL, Young Thug's record label, is a criminal organization. All of y'all walk away. Well,
actually,
now,
they're still trying to find out who's
YSL said this is not a criminal organization.
Because there was someone who got killed. And
that's not
they're trying to look
right?
for the murderer.
So their lawyers are scrambling together and saying, boy, if you don't say it's a criminal organization, Gunna said, it's a criminal organization. Gunna and multiple people in YSL said it is a criminal organization. So Young Thug's case was kicked off. So Young Thug in jail after this happens. He's talking to 21 Savage and he's saying he cannot believe Gunna did that. He's very upset. 21 Savage telling him, well, I don't think Gunna did it to hurt you. It just made sense for Gunna to do that. Young Thug says he doesn't care. It broke his heart. 21 Savage brings up a very good point. He says, well, didn't you tell your brother to do the same thing as Gunna, to say YSL is a criminal organization so we can get 0 years? Young Thug denies this, but Young Thug actually did tell his brother to do that. So it seems that Young Thug saw the reasoning as to why somebody would say it's a criminal organization, but he just felt hurt hearing Gunna say it. He expected more loyalty from Gunna. Now, I say this because in the beginning of this video, we said Young Thug.
Look, when the cops are on you, and they think they have some dirt on you. They're gonna do whatever, like right, whatever they can. Also, for Gunna, he probably got a settlement or a deal if he told the truth or some shit.
Basically has two problems. His jail calls were leaked, and an earlier recording of him talking to police were leaked. Well, people are basically saying, look, you're upset at Gunna for talking to police. Everybody was calling him a snitch. Young Thug, you calling him a snitch. But you was talking to police too. What's going on? Now, let's figure out what's going on together, because here's where things start to get wicked. Now, first things first, Young Thug's conversation with police is way before this RICO situation. This conversation is taking place because Lil Wayne's tour bus had just recently been shot up by a man named Pee Wee Roscoe. Basically, police were trying to connect some dots, okay? So they bring in Young Thug and they tell him, Young Thug, Tugga Tugga, as some may refer you as, you don't need to talk to us. They stress to Tugga that he does not need to speak to them. They stress this because they don't want all this information they have to be locked down later by a lawyer saying Young Thug didn't have his lawyer present, all that. So they tell him, you don't have to speak to us. Young Thug says, they say, you really don't have to speak to us. They say it like 5 times. I'm telling you. Young Thug says, no, I want to. And this is when people say, oh, there you go, Young Thug. You could have just got your lawyer. You could have just walked out.
No,
which
he
Young
didn't.
Thug absolutely should have done, because side note, police
What a
brought him in
fucking
because his name, Young Thug's name, was connected to Pee Wee Roscoe, Lil Wayne, to the whole shooting situation. They already booked Pee Wee Roscoe. They already had evidence against Pee Wee Roscoe. They just wanted to see if they can get Young Thug too. The police kicked things off by being real cool, you know? Officer goes, man, I listen to your music. Thug goes, really? He says, yeah, man. You want some food?
No.
Thug goes, yeah, I can use some food. He said, get my boy some food. That's Thugger. No, but seriously though,
The hell
you know
is
Pee Wee Roscoe? Thug goes, I mean, they said, write that down. Thug said, Officer said, don't worry about that. That's just a formality. And therein lies the issue. You see, the problem with Young Thug speaking to police and people speaking to police without lawyers present is because you don't know what the police are looking for.
Correct.
At this point, the police seem to be looking for a...
Yeah. Police will never tell you what they're looking for. So if they're already at your front doorstep, just get a lawyer. Just fucking... Right, because it's already shady enough they're already at your doorstep. So it's like,
general framework as to what they wanted to work with, of the goings on in Atlanta, in a sense, to build a sort of a file. It's hard to know why police are asking certain questions. For example, at one point, Young Thug seems to be trying to help Pee Wee Roscoe. He says, I thought Pee Wee Roscoe and Lil Wayne were close friends. And then I hear they are saying Pee Wee Roscoe had shot up Lil Wayne's tour bus. I was shocked. Young Thug is saying that. He thought they were friends. Fast forward to today's time, to recent times, Pee Wee Roscoe comes out with a video saying, in his opinion, Young Thug was trying to help him by throwing the police off, by saying Pee Wee Roscoe and Lil Wayne were friends. Everybody cool. Okay. Let's go back to the tape. Again, the problem is Young Thug and Pee Wee Roscoe, they're not playing the game that police and lawyers are playing. Police are taking that information and saying, okay, Lil Wayne friends with Pee Wee Roscoe. I don't believe that. Let's throw that away. The police say, okay, so Young Thug, you don't really know Pee Wee Roscoe like that. Young Thug says, that's what I said. I don't. They say, okay, but Pee Wee Roscoe says that you paid him to shoot up Lil Wayne's tour bus. Young Thug says, man, Pee Wee Roscoe ain't said that. They said, oh, I thought you ain't know. Young Thug said, how can you speak to somebody that you don't know? What's going on? Write that down. Young Thug says, I ain't say that like I'm just saying he wouldn't say that. I just know he wouldn't say that. They said, cool. And that's the information police are looking for. That's why you need a lawyer.
Yeah.
They're just fishing for connections. They
Yeah,
say,
they're
hey,
just fishing.
aren't you a part of a
They're
gang?
just
Don't you say that in your
fishing
song?
if you know
They he's gonna
anything.
say no. He says
Right.
no.
And once
say,
they
all right,
once
cool,
they have you
cool.
on
We
the
just thought
hook,
we'd ask.
well, they're
Birdman, is he
now
part of
they
the
now
gang?
think you're a
Young Thug
suspect.
says no. They said cool. We just thought we'd ask. Now,
yeah.
all this to say, this is the game that Young Thug and police are playing
They're-
during this call.
Dude, these
At
cops
the
are
end of the
fishing for
call,
information.
Young
And you
Thug
just
says,
fucking
hey,
gave
if
it
y'all
to
want to
them.
know any more information, just hit me up. But don't tell people that I spoke to you. And that is very important because it lends credence to the Young Thug snitching allegations.
Yeah.
Because whole time he could say, didn't y'all listen to the call? I was trying to throw the police off. I wasn't telling them the truth, which he wasn't. But him telling them, if you need more information, call me. Now you can say another theory. Now you can say Young Thug is thinking, maybe I'll cooperate in
He's
the
a
future.
plant.
Maybe Young Thug having a conversation
He's
with
a
police
plant,
without his lawyer in
dude.
the first place is to show how quote unquote cooperative he can be. Maybe he's worried about his name being connected to this whole shooting. So he's saying, look, if you get more info, just hit me up first and I'll clear it up for you, which is basically the job of an informant. But I stress that these are just theories. I have no clue as to what was actually going on through Young Thug's head. And he also knows it's absolutely not a good look to be talking to police in the first place.
Yeah,
so again,
it's
he tells
not,
them, look,
especially without a
this
lawyer.
conversation stays between us, right? They say, Young Thug, you think we walk around telling people after we broke bread with you, we sat here, we ate with you, we listened to your music, we like this. Fingers crossed. Thug said, okay, we tight. Y'all not gonna tell the world. They said, fingers crossed. We not gonna tell the world.
We cool,
this
boys.
videotape
We
recently
cool.
was released. So let's wrap this up and really dig deep into this situation. Listen.
We
to this next
homies.
part
We
closely.
homies,
Remember,
right?
Young Thug has two problems. His jail calls were released and recordings of him speaking to police were released. During the jail calls, he explains why he was upset at Gunna and why he believes Gunna was a snitch. 21 Savage questions that. 21 Savage tells him he does not believe Gunna did the right thing, but he does not think things were personal. Young Thug says, no, Gunna is a snitch. Turns out Young Thug's brother took the same deal as Gunna. In fact, Young Thug encouraged his brother to take that deal. But Young Thug says his brother is not a snitch. A recording of Young Thug is also released where he's speaking to police saying, hey,
that's why he
hit
thinks
me up
Gunna
later
is a
if y'all want
snitch.
some more info, all that. But he says, I am not a snitch. Gunna is the only snitch in this situation. So it really begs the question, what is a snitch? And the answer is, I don't know. Some people think it's when you talk to police. Some people think if you're a civilian, you can talk to police, you're not a snitch. I don't know. I personally believe the situation is less complicated than that. I think people tend to create their own reality when it suits them.
Look, Young Thug
Gunna
is at the center
a snitch
of it.
because he hurt me. That's what I think Young Thug is really trying to say. In fact, he says to 21 Savage, Gunna broke my heart. His brother can't be a snitch because he didn't want his brother to go to jail. Young Thug can't be a snitch because in his mind, allegedly, maybe, I'm speculating, that he's trying to trick the police and throw them off. He's shaping his own reality into what's a snitch and what's not a snitch. You know what I mean? But regardless, the overwhelming consensus online is Young Thug called Gunna a snitch. Meanwhile, the whole time he was speaking to police, Young Thug is a hypocrite.
Yeah, this is why you don't talk to police when you're still under investigation or you have your court stuff still going through, right? Makes you look bad. Anyways, there you have it. That is the Young Thug situation by Zevi.